This is a tudung, or at least that's what it's normally called in Singapore and Malaysia. It's also known as the hijab, coming from the Arabic word hajabah. It is a common sight in Singapore, but amongst non-Muslims, there are still many misconceptions about it.
Do you have hair? Or do you shower with the tudung?
But beyond these superficial concerns, there's perhaps one main thing that many non-Muslims don't know. Although it is a religious obligation, choosing to wear the tudung or not is a personal choice. This is the exact verse in the Quran about the tudung.
So the first verse is from chapter 24, verse 31, and the specific part of the verse is that they should draw their coverings over their necklines and not reveal their charms except to their husbands, their fathers, and it details so on and so forth, which is like other family members who basically the women cannot get married to, including the women folk. Okay?
But what does it mean?
So the purpose of the tudung, like I mentioned earlier, is that it is a religious obligation. It is one of the many acts of worship that we can do to reach that angle of, attaining God's mercy and forgiveness and earning a place in His heaven. So the Quran basically, through those verses, the obligation of covering up is quite clear. The scholars have taken a look at the verses. At the end, I have tried to understand the verses and then looked at how these verses were put in practice during the Prophet's time.
Despite the obligation, when you decide to wear the tudung, it's a decision that's different for every Muslim woman. This is Fahima. She's a model and a speech therapist. For Fahima, the decision came a bit later in life.
I started wearing the hijab sometime around 2013 when I was actually overseas in Australia. And I was away from family and I think I had always been contemplating about when I wanted to wear the headscarf. And I also didn't want to wear my headscarf at a time when someone would say like, oh, your father made you do it, or like your husband made you do it. So I wanted to be like making that decision for myself.
This is Jaina. She's Chinese, wasn't born into a Muslim family, and converted to Islam in 2014.
Actually, I believe 10 years ago when I was in Istanbul, roaming the streets of Istanbul, being surrounded by Islamic architecture and the calls to prayer, I felt this certain placidity. I felt at home. Yeah, and I think that was when the seed of curiosity was planted in me. I started wearing the tudung back in 2017. Not long after we got married, I fell pregnant, and then we had our daughter, and it's tiring being a new mother, it's exhausting, and sometimes we tend to forget ourselves. Yeah, so I took that time to work on myself, and I wasn't exactly ready, thinking that I was spiritually there when I wore the tudung. It was more of, I better wear the tudung to get there.
But what about Muslim women who choose not to wear the tudung? Are they considered bad Muslims?
Definitely not. The tudung doesn't make or break the faith. The tudung is one of the many acts of worship, albeit it's a very visible one, but it doesn't make or break the faith. Islam also encourages learning. Islam encourages understanding why we do what we do. Islam doesn't encourage just following blindly. So at any one point of time, it doesn't mean that all Muslims are doing all 100 mandated acts of worship. For example, if there's like 100 mandated acts of worship, right? We are doing what we can based on our knowledge, based on our capacities, based on our capabilities and understandings.
What about Muslim men? Why are they not subjected to the same obligation?
This obligation is not only for females, but it's also for males. And even the obligation of specifically dressing modestly, Muslim men or Muslim males have that obligation as well. The verse before actually addresses males and instructs them to lower their gaze and protect their chastity.
But this difference means that the obligation of modesty is much more visible amongst Muslim women than Muslim men. And because of this visibility, Muslim women might be perceived differently, and misconceptions might be formed just from appearance alone.
So my mom, when she's experienced it like I think a few times where she's gone for like work interviews. She's gone through all of the rounds and then she got the job and then they'll be like, okay, see you on Monday. By the way, you cannot wear a scarf. Like very offhanded comment. Like, so when that happens, naturally I feel that people will be disappointed. Like for example, like when my mom, she gets that, she'd be a bit, I feel like I I went through like 3 rounds. And I went to the interviews wearing the tudung, and you never made any sort of comment. You never told me that, hey, this is not going to be okay. So she would make it known lah. Like she should tell them that if you really need me to take off the tudung, I'm not going to take on this offer. But just to inform you, this is not the way that you should be doing things. You should be informed. If really you want someone who doesn't wear the tudung, then you should just inform like straight off the bat that, okay, the tudung's not okay, will you be comfortable with this?
That's modest due to your modeling career, even though you wear the tudung.
Not to my face, but yeah, like, no one's ever said like, oh, you're not modest because you're a model. Because they see that I'm fully dressed. Like, what's not modest about it? I think sometimes I do find that, modesty and modeling is at odds, but at the end of the day, like, Muslim women are just part of the community, and like, you want that representation. Like, we buy things, we enjoy fashion, so why shouldn't there be a person to represent that on the medias as well?
But of course, the tudung has become a more commonly seen image in mainstream media. And as an emphasis on diversity grows, people in Singapore grow more conscious of the various styles to wear it. What's your favourite style to wear?
Favorite style? The easiest style.
And what's the easiest style?
Because I'm a mother of rambunctious children. I need something that's easy. I need something that gives me the most coverage. So I think instant tudungs are the best way to go for me.
I think this is one of my favorite styles because you can actually wear earrings. I don't know, I kind of like something that's kind of neat around the neck. I do like wearing turbans for more casual, more informal events. I think it's a little bit more fashion.
At the end of the day, while a religious obligation, the tudung also has personal significance to the individual and their identities. What does the tudung mean to you personally?
I think for me, it means modesty. I think it means practicing my faith or practicing this aspect of my faith, and I think it means being identifiably Muslim.
Because I've worn it for so long, it's also very much a very integral part of my identity. I cannot imagine myself without it anymore.
The tudung is more than a piece of cloth on our head. There's honestly nothing much that people should be so concerned about. Yeah, because when we choose to put on the tudung, it's our own personal choice. It makes me feel safe. Not because I'm covered physically, but I feel like it guards my heart.